So this past week, I have been listening to a book called The Book of Joy that was based on a series of interviews done with the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And I found our story for us this morning. They took that Book of Joy for adults, that is 10 hours of listening that I'm doing, and condensed it into a children's book. So I want to share that with you this morning for our multi-generational moment. It's called The Little Book of Joy. One of us grew up in a little house. One of us grew up in a big house. Our houses were on opposite sides of the world. Often, we were sad and lonely. Both of us wished for a friend. Sometimes the other kids wouldn't let us play, or they were very far away. We wondered if we would always be sad and lonely. But when we sat still and breathed in the quiet, we noticed something beautiful. If you just focus on the thing that is making you sad, then the sadness is all you see. But if you look around, you will see that joy is everywhere. Joy is in the warm, tingly feeling of the sun tickling your toes in the morning. It is the giggly, squishy feeling when you are doing something silly. And it is the soft, snuggly feeling of being all wrapped up cozy in your bed at night. Even when you are caught in the rain and your joy is washed away, it's waiting at the bottom of a puddle. Even if you slam the door and your joy can't get in, it's just on the other side, waiting in a loving hug. And even if there is a loud noise in the night and your joy gets scared away, it comes streaming right back with the light of the silvery moon. Joy is the bubbly, bouncy feeling of finding a good friend. And once you let joy in, like magic, your heart always has room for more. We discovered that the more joy we shared, the more joy we had. And the more joy we had, the more joy we could share. So look for the joy all around you and share it. Write it in a letter, play it on a drum, sing it to the sky. It will travel up in the air, across the ocean. Someone will find it and share it. And as it spreads from person to person, the world will fill with joy. And now we have some more joyful music from Terry. Terry, will you tell us about what you're going to sing this morning?
Well, appropriately, it's called Joy Parade, and it was on the, it was a program, Nashville, And I just love these. It's two sisters that sing it, so it's a really cool song. Hope you enjoy it. I will bend and I will sway. I will fight to stand up straight. When troubled winds blow my way, I won't break. I will hope and I will love. I will give till there's enough. That's the life I'm dreaming of. I won't give up. My head's spinning all around and round, and the world keeps trying to bring me down. Oh, oh. I bought a ticket to the Joy Parade, and I ain't jumping off this happy train. No, oh, 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 oh. I will stumble, I will crawl, bang my head against these walls, and in the end I won't have it all, but I'll stand tall. My head's spinning all around and round, and the world keeps trying to bring me down. Oh, oh. I bought a ticket to the Joy Parade, and I ain't jumping off this happy train. Oh, 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 oh. I will sing and I will shout. Let these words fly from my mouth, and I will live what this life's about, with or without. And I will live what this life's about, with or without.
Joy is an act of resistance. You've heard me say it during Joys and Sorrows over the past few months on and off. Joy is an act of resistance. What exactly does that mean? The first time I heard it, I wasn't so sure. I have a confession: joy is not always my strong suit. At least I didn't think it was until I started researching for this month's topic. How many of you feel like you struggle with joy? A few? Not everybody. Thankfully, we need those joyful people. Thank you. But I think part of my struggle with joy is feeling like it can be sort of a false happy, right? There's this pressure to feel happy about things. But the more I'm leaning into joy, the more I'm discovering that's not really what we're talking about, particularly when we're talking about joy as resistance. Right? We're not talking about that put on a smile and bare your teeth and grit through things. We're talking about a way of being, an inner sense of joy that grounds us in the world, Author Arthur Riley, who's one of the authors of Black Liturgies, wrote, "We must reclaim joy outside of the artificial cheer it is often reduced to. There is a joy that is defiant, a portal to survival for our ancestors, a way to say, we will not be captive to despair, nor abandon our belief in beauty. Joy with teeth." Has anyone here ever thought about joy with teeth? It's a really fascinating image. But I think she's on to something, right? Joy that has a staying power. I've been doing a lot of listening this week to another quote. We're gonna dabble in lots of voices this morning. I was listening to On Being with Krista Tippett, which is a classic favorite of mine, and she was doing an interview with Ross Gay. And the title is On the Insistence of Joy. And he says, "Sometimes I think there's a conception of joy as meaning something like something easy. And to me, joy has nothing to do with ease. And joy has everything to do with the fact that we're all going to die. That actually, when I'm thinking about joy, I'm thinking about at the same time as something wonderful is happening, some connection is being made in my life. We are also in the process of dying." Okay, so this joy got real heavy real fast. Which is one of my favorite songs, My Joy is Heavy. And it's a place where I connected with joy. And a little trigger warning, this is a heavy topic. My Joy is Heavy is a YouTube film put on by the Banksons. If anyone remembers hearing the Keep Going song during the pandemic, I've got at least one hand in the back. My Joy is Heavy, and up front too. My Joy is Heavy is a song that is sung by the lead singer of the Banksons and the family as a whole, talking about the joy that comes at the end of a life where she was experiencing a pregnancy and sitting in that moment with the son who was 5 or 6 years old, snuggling up to her, holding the baby in her womb, and being really present in that moment to allow herself to feel the love. And shortly after that, having a miscarriage. And singing about the joy that is still present, right? The joy of that life existing. That the pain of the loss doesn't negate the joy that existed. And I know many of us in this room have lost pregnancies in various ways, or have perhaps had to end a pregnancy. And there is a deep, deep pain there. But it does not negate the moments of joy in life. It does not negate the hope and possibility of a new life, even if that life doesn't last very long, even if that life never becomes a child. Then we got real heavy there. But this is the joy that I can connect with. It's not the joy that says we have to gloss over our lives, but it is the joy that says to feel deeply, to connect to our own sense of empathy and compassion, means we hold the sadness and the grief and the joy and the love. So I think joy is grounded in knowing love, knowing compassion. And again, we're not talking about the surface level feelings, we're talking about the deep, grounded love that is at the center of all that joy springs out of. In these conversations that I was listening to between Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama, this joy and this love that is heavy was so apparent. But they also have this magical ability to bring in laughter. I get it sometimes, but sometimes I struggle with this one. Right? The laughter in the midst of this pain. Neither of these two incredibly wise people had easy lives. They both suffered personally, as well as being conduits for holding the suffering of their people, and being figures who speak to the injustice and pain in the world. They have found ways to hold both the heaviness and struggle of the world with the joy and the love. Now, the book is 10 hours of listening, so I'm not going to be able to cover everything in one sermon. But I want to share the big points with you. Basically, the titles of the chapters. And this book, the Book of Joy, is written not just by these two incredible folks who are so wise, but they bring in voices from neuroscientists, voices from others who have suffered in the world. So it is supported by so many different ways and lenses of looking at the topic of joy. And what they've found is what they've called the 8 pillars of joy. And they break it down into 4 and 4 because 8 is too many for us to hold in our brain. They say there are 4 pillars of the mind that help us achieve this kind of deep joy. There's perspective, humility, humor, and acceptance. We could do sermon series on each of those. And then there's 4 pillars of the heart that they say help lead us to this joy: forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity. That's a lot to hold and take in. I encourage you to go listen to or read this book. It's fantastic. If you struggle with joy in the same way that I have, it's a great way to connect into it. But I want to read one quote in the forgiveness section, because I know it's something that many of us are struggling with right now as we watch people who are supposed to be leading our country make choice after choice that is harming people. A quote on forgiveness. "I would like to add," the Dalai Lama said, "that there is an important distinction between forgiveness and simply allowing others wrongdoing. Sometimes people misunderstand and think forgiveness means you accept and approve of wrongdoing. No, this is not the case. We must make an important distinction. The Dalai Lama was speaking emphatically, striking one hand against the other. The actor and the action, or the person and what they do, what they have done. Where the wrong action is concerned, it may be necessary to take appropriate counteraction to stop it. Toward the actor, or the person, however, you can choose not to develop anger and hatred. This is where the power of forgiveness lies. Not losing sight of the humanity of the person while responding to the wrong with clarity and firmness. This is a hard pill to swallow right now for many of us. But they talk a lot in the book about how anger, dehumanization, hatred doesn't lead us to a place of creating positive change. It only leads us to our own suffering. It is being able to hold accountability for the wrongdoings while also staying in our own joy as resistance that allows us to continue to live and be human through the struggles. It is that shift in perspective. One more quote, and then more songs. From Adrienne Marie Brown. Oppression makes us believe that pleasure is not something that we all have equal access to. One of the ways that we start doing the work of reclaiming our full selves, our whole, liberated, free selves, is by reclaiming our access to pleasure. As a Black woman, she says, in this country, I have to walk around every day knowing that had I been born at a different time in this country's history, it would have been a policy, like part of the law, that I could be raised for the pleasure of whoever owned me in that time. I'm trying to come all the way back from that to living in my own dignity. And like the self-actualization of my own pleasure, my own body. Not for someone else to use, not for someone else to have ownership of. This reclaiming of our own bodies, our own joy, our own ability to stay present with our compassion and humanity is for me the core of what Toi Derakati was saying when she said, joy is an act of resistance.